as I'm getting suited up, I'm gonna tell you again about what we're gonna be doing here today. There's so many of these little bugs, I can see them all over my screen here already. But some of the things that we're gonna get ahead and start doing today is, of course, we're gonna be looking for the queen. We wanna make sure we spot her first. My main priority for today is going to be, again, correcting some of the comb, seeing how they're building up the comb. I also wanna see how that top feeder has been working, seeing if they've gotten through all of the sugar water. I brought a big jug here so we can go ahead and refill it if need be. That being said, we're gonna make sure that they're building out that comb all nice and flat. If there's any that are a little wonky or they're sticking off of that frame, we're gonna go ahead and take that off today. Again, making sure we're spotting the queen first so that way we don't cut her off, and making sure that she's safe and we don't harm her. If we don't see her, we're gonna be a little bit cautious, kind of how like I was yesterday. I wanna make sure that we're not harming her. So if I don't spot her, it could be due to that wonky comb that I wanna cut out in the first place. I don't wanna start cutting it if she's maybe underneath it, and that's kind of the reason why we wanna have it as flat as possible. So we're gonna try and fix that. On top of that, I did bring some wax. So I do have a little bit of wax here already that I had already rendered. It's not a whole lot. It's just whatever I was able to take from the last visit. And what I mean by render is that I kind of take all of the dirt and grime out of it. So then you get this nice yellow color. Now, I might take some of the comb today and also throw it in here and melt it down. It doesn't necessarily need to be rendered. The rendered is just, again, that clean wax. They won't really mind if it's not super clean. So, that's not gonna be any of my worries. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna use some of this wax as well as some wax that I collect from today. And we're gonna go ahead and paint them on just so that way they can keep on making nice, good frames. And then, as I mentioned, I have a nice big jar here of sugar water that we're gonna throw on top just to finish things off. So let's go ahead and get inside the hive. All right, so in the last video, I had put this on top. The reason why I had put a stone on top is generally if you have bears or whatnot, like they may try and knock over the hive. So having something heavy on top allows it to stay down. On top of that, the bees have something called propolis, and that propolis is what they use to kind of glue these boxes together. So between here and the top, or even this top piece, you might notice sometimes I take my tool and I pry it open. That's because they put this thing, again, called propolis, and it kind of makes it sticky. So as we come into the colder weathers, there's gonna be other bees and other animals that may want their honey. So I wanna make sure that I use something to kind of weigh it down. There's some bees that are returning from foraging. Something that's a good sign is that we don't really see them all kind of sitting at the front there. That's called bearding. And usually you'll see that if, again, there is a dearth and there's not really much for them to do. The fact that I still see them kind of running around and coming in and out of the front of the hive is a good thing. So for right now, it does tell me that there is some stuff for them to forage from. And we can see here from last time, all of the sugar water is gone. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cap the top here just so no other bees get in there. Because this top portion, no bees are in, it's just sugar water and they come up to get the sugar water. So I'm gonna make sure that I keep this top just in case there is some sugar water. I don't wanna bring any attention of any other bees that are in the area. So I'm just gonna separate this and we're just gonna go ahead and open up the hive. I do have a divider here, so it's not too big of a deal for me to just lift. And again, I'm gonna use my tool just to kind of separate the boxes because they do have that propolis, which is like a glue. And I'll go ahead and put this board down. All right, we can see the bees are kind of congregated in this corner. I noticed that they do really like to pick a corner to work on. Generally, you hear that, they work from the center out, which is what I believe. But I always see them kind of working on the corners, which, isn't a bad thing. I just have to kind of shuffle these frames around to make sure that they're all getting worked on. So we're gonna start on the corner closest to us. Again, the propolis is what makes these kind of stick together, which is why I use my hive tool here to really allow me to get in there and separate these frames. All right. So we can see with this frame, not a lot is built out, but they're working on it. You can definitely see. you know, it's a good thing that they're getting started on this frame. Not really a whole lot on these end frames. What we can see though, and I am looking for the queen, of course. The queen does have a blue dot on her back, so it does make her easier to find. I had marked her in one of my previous videos. What I can see in these cells is bee bread. So we can see there's some bee bread at the base of those cells on this frame, which is nice to see. I'm going to go ahead and place this frame on the side for now as I start working on the rest of these. Okay, I'm seeing some larvae and I'm seeing some eggs, so good. The queen is still alive. And in the corner here, we can see some capped honey right here in this upper right-hand corner. This frame overall doesn't look too bad. Happy to see that there's some eggs, so we know the queen is okay. She was on this frame, she was laying. Good sign. See on the back side here. This is where that comb is a little wonky, we can see. So we want to fix that one that's protruding out. All of that is not good, and that's where we can lose the queen. I'm going to look on this frame a little closer to see if I can spot her. All right, so again, I don't really see her here. I'm not too sure if the camera will pick it up, but there are little dots in there, which are telling me that those are eggs. So again, you know, if I was just here to see if the queen's alive, she's alive. She's doing great. She's still laying, that's perfect. But I do want to get to that comb. I just don't want to get to it if I don't know where she is. So let's go ahead and see if we can find her. So then we can go ahead and correct some of these comb issues that we're having. All right, this is a bit of a heavy frame and a lot more wonky comb. All right, so this is a pretty nice looking frame. Again, we can see there's capped honey here on the side. It's not ideal that it's protruding like that, but this type of frame, honestly, I think I'm gonna leave there on the top because there's a lot of good production. This here is not ideal, we could see. I don't see the queen on here. Just taking another quick glance. I do see some eggs have been laid. So she was here previously. Same thing on this side. This, again, these columns drive me nuts. You can see here by my thumb, all that new on the side there, that light colored. That's not ideal. I'd have to rip that out. Again, as I'm going through, also, it's a good thing to always look for any beetles. All right, so this is a nice looking frame here. We could see, again, the white in the upper right-hand corner, or in the upper left-hand corner, and in the upper right-hand corner, that white cap is all honey, and then in the center is all brood. So there's some babies in there. Pretty good looking frame. I don't think I'm going to do anything with this one. And we're gonna again see if we can find the queen somewhere around here. I do see again eggs, so she's doing her job, but it is just peace of mind to know where she is. So if I want to go ahead and fix some of this, comb, that's where I would do it. We could also see right here a baby is being born. It's always nice to see right where my thumb is. See, she's starting to eat out of the honeycomb there, which is nice to see. Always cool. Now you can definitely tell they are getting a little bit more agitated. I'm sure you're noticing all of the different flying bees in the front here, but they're also coming towards my face. So usually that's a sign that they are agitated. And again, I do have them open for quite some time here, so they want to protect their honey. And wow, that is a lot of honey here. Look where all that white is. That is all honey that they've capped up. It's not ideal. I do want to take that away. But honestly, at this point, I mean, they're gonna need as much as they can to kind of stock up for the cold weather. But wow. What I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna move some of these frames around, and my hope is that putting some of the ones that have more honey on the ends, I can kind of get them to kind of centralize their work here. They have a bunch of frames in here that have a lot of capped brood, which is good to see. As much as I'm kind of a stickler to kind of get them to have as nice, neat of comb as possible, you know, they are doing really well, especially again since they had a a tough start. So they're doing great. And I actually think that there's one that I can go ahead and definitely paint on, which would be this frame, and I'll kind of throw it in the center. So hopefully this will actually be a good marker for us to see how well it works to paint on frames. So I'm going to shake off these bees, and then I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to melt the wax to paint on. I'll go ahead and just shake them off. All right, so as I mentioned, my setup is not the greatest for melting wax. Back here, I don't really have a whole lot except for, like some logs that I can kind of prop things onto. So what I'm gonna do is I have a torch and I have a metal container with a paintbrush. And I'm just gonna take that wax, throw it in the container, heat up the pot to melt it, and then I can go ahead and paint the rest on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my container with my wax. I'm just gonna dump it in this little pot here. And there's a little leftover in this container, but that's fine. I just keep reusing that anyways. And I'm just gonna take my torch and I'm just gonna heat it up. I kind of go move around the bottom. You can already start to see the wax melting a little bit. Whenever I hear the wax kind of melting or crackling, that's when I kind of pull it away. I don't want to burn it too much. And you can see, without kind of boiling it, I do have some melted wax here. I take the frame, I take a paintbrush, I dip it in the wax, and just like that, we paint it on. And you can see that it'll start to dry pretty quickly on there. And I'm just gonna make sure just to get a nice little coat. I kind of smeared the ones that they created over here, but it's okay, they'll go ahead and fix it. I'm gonna make sure to kind of get along the top. So that's usually where most of those like columns get made. And they're the ones that are the bane of my existence once they get to the corners, because they're kind of tough for me to kind of collect and fix. I'll go ahead and turn this one around. Again, I kind of ruined some of their progress, but they'll fix it quickly, considering these ones are pretty nicely built. Now again, if you weren't here for my previous videos, the reason why that we're painting them on is because this black foundation is advertised from almost every company that they put on a wax layer, and maybe they do, but for the most part I feel like it's probably like a plastic material, and the bees don't really take to it. So unless you put actual beeswax on it, they tend to make those weird looking combs rather than using this foundation. Sometimes they do like we see here, but other times they make those columns, and that was the biggest issue that I had with a new colony. So again, if I had any tips to give any new beekeeper, definitely to paint wax on prior to setting up the frames, so that way you don't have to kind of fix your mistakes like I am retroactively. All right, so I'm just gonna take this one and I'm gonna kind of put it in the center, and we will check on it next time to see how much progress that they put on. All right, now to be completely honest, the majority of the frames aren't too bad. My biggest issue is that they're making these honey sections extra long on certain frames, and it seems to give them less room on other frames. So it's not optimal, but they aren't really making it super difficult for like the queen to kind of tuck under. There's only one, which I think I'm gonna try and fix now. I'm gonna add some more smoke to my smoker so I can make sure and clear out as many as possible. But the other issue is that we're getting to a point where, again, because I'd mentioned there's a dearth, if there are other bees around and they don't have a lot of honey or nectar flow from plants, they're gonna smell this from miles away and then come here and potentially attack the hive. So I'm conflicted with that. I think, thinking it through now, I think I'm gonna actually leave it. There are plenty of other frames that they can still have production, still be pretty strong for the rest of fall into winter. So I think I'm gonna leave them for now. I used up a good amount of the wax that I did have. I'll show you what I have left. Again, just kind of these little small pieces that are remaining. I think for the most part, the frame that I did do is gonna be good. The rest, they're kind of already starting to get built out. I'm not too concerned on those. More so now, I'm just hoping that they can build out the foundations from the ones that I did paint, and they'll be set to move forward. Now, the other thing is should I be adding more sugar water? I think I am going to add the sugar water that I brought, that big jar. The only reason why is, one, I do see there are still honeycomb pieces for them to lay eggs, and there's plenty that are capped, which eventually, once those are born, you know, the queen can reuse. So there are plenty of those. I just think if I stop giving them the nectar flow, they're going to keep that honey and store it, thinking for the winter time that, okay, we're all set. We're gonna keep that there and, you know, store it, rather than if I give them the sugar water, they're going to say, okay, we have plenty of incoming nectar that we can go ahead and keep on building and expanding. So I think I'm going to do that. Again, we're going to add that to our top super there, and we're going to go ahead and pack them up. I saw a couple of happy dances on this one. I wanted to see if we can maybe get it. I think my two favorite things so far about beekeeping is the happy dances and seeing a couple of bees being born. Again, this is a beautiful frame that I think I initially had painted on, so this is perfect. This is exactly what we want to see. But then on the flip side, literally, we have some wonky comb, which I think I'm going to just try and smoke out with the rest of the smoke I have. If I could clear out the area enough, I think I'll take some of that off. So let's see what the remainder smoke that I have. Make sure the queen's not in there. I see some bee bread in there. Let's see if we can just cut it out. You can see how fragile it is too when it doesn't actually hang on. Or when it's not on the foundation. Yeah, just comes right off. Here you can see a little bit closer of that bee bread. All right, I think we're ready to just wrap it up now. You want to make sure as well, when putting everything back together, that all of the frames are nice and snug in the center. So I'm just going to go ahead and push them in. So again, they don't have more room to kind of create that wonky comb. I've always wondered, and this is something I should look up, if they do have wonky comb that looks bad, will they fix it because they're like, hey, these frames are really close together. Maybe we should like eat the rest of the wax and fix it. I don't know. That's wishful thinking maybe. But anyways, now it's tight in the center. They're all set. I'll go put that top cover on. Give them a second to just readjust and get comfortable. I did move around some of the frames, so they're probably a little bit disoriented. There shouldn't really be any big issue with that. All right, so I just put everything on. I'm gonna give them a second to just kind of settle down, go inside, not to feel disrupted by me. And then I'm gonna put that sugar water in the top, and, you know, hopefully because they'll simmer down by then and they won't be flying around, you know, nobody will drop in and drown in the sugar water. Drop the sugar water in here. I'm gonna be careful not to spill any, so that way I don't attract again any other bees from a location around here. All right, beautiful. And we'll just cap it up real quick so nobody flies in. All right, and now they're set. I'll just throw my brick on top. And we're good to go. Just as a recap, as I derobe here for a second, it is very hot, surprisingly. Overall, very good. Queen, she's still alive, she's still laying. Perfect, that's exactly what we want to see. As for the comb, overall not super bad. I did just remove a couple of comb that you guys had seen. You know, it wasn't anything too bad. I'm just a little bit picky at this point, just because, again, I'm probably a little salty that I didn't get to put on wax beforehand to make sure that everything was nice and level. But I mean, as things are, it's not that bad. Again, I would like to see if it were a little bit, more flat, but it's not going to prevent them from doing anything. There's not a lot that the queen could hide under, for inspections. I haven't seen her these past couple of times, but there are eggs in there saying that she has been here today because they're little tiny rice, and hopefully the camera was able to pick that up, where it looks like, very tiny little rice-shaped eggs. So she's in there. They're all good. As for the sugar water, I think the sugar water is fine. Me giving them more, because I do want them to think that there is still this nectar flow for them to keep on building that foundation. So I think that's fine. We'll see next time how the wax is holding up, that new frame that I had put in the center. Hopefully they're building nice wax on that since I painted it on. We also have to see how the sugar water is going to do with them, make sure that they're not using all of the cells for the sugar water for food, rather than having the queen have places to lay the eggs. So we're going to check on that. And on top of that, I'm hoping by then we will have our Varroa mite tester, as well as our Varroa mite killer, I guess. The product that I'm going with is called Apiguard. It's beginner friendly, it's organic as well, so it's not going to harm the bees. For those of you that don't know, Varroa mites or Varroa destructor mites, they're one of the reasons why most bee colonies will die, especially throughout the winter. So during this time, as we start getting into the fall and winter, you want to make sure to prep and make sure that there aren't too many mites. For the most part, I think I've heard that most colonies do have mites at all times. You just want to make sure that your mite population is low. So a couple of ways of testing to make sure that your levels are low, and I might potentially do this, or I might just treat them automatically just to play it safe, is essentially you would take a cup of bees, which is roughly around 300 bees. You throw them in an alcohol solution. It will kill the bees, but it'll also make the mites detach from the bees, because the mites kind of cling on to the bees themselves, as well as any upcoming brood or eggs. And essentially, once you dip them into the alcohol, they fall off of the bees and you can get a good count. So generally they say if you were to scoop a cup of bees, you would want to make sure that there's no more than, I think, 9 mites that come off. Anything more than 9 would be higher than a 3%, which is generally what they say you should treat for Varroa mites. The mites thrive in the winter, so if I'm doing a test now and it's somewhere close to that 9 number, most likely you would want to treat them. Again, I haven't decided if I want to do the test and kill 300 bees, or if I just want to go ahead and just treat them anyways, but I'm going to go ahead and see once I get the kit in, and hopefully we'll go ahead and do that in our next video. That being said, if you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe.
Hey, this is Alex editing the video. Just wanted to throw in a bonus clip here. I actually went back and did harvest the honey from this frame. It was hanging off a little too much, so I just figured I'd take it, and instead I would just give them sugar water to supplement it. That being said, here's me trying the honey for the first time.
I don't know if I ever showed the bee bread close up, but you could see right in there, I don't know if it'll focus, the pollen and like the honey that they put together to like make it. So this is like their protein, whereas the honey is like their carbs. So you could see there's some cells that are open that have a little bit of honey in it. That honey is still edible, but the ones that are capped over that you don't see those holes, that's when you know it's like perfect to eat. And generally the moisture level is under 17%. So that means that you can put it in a shelf. So all the honey that you buy from the shelves has a moisture level of 17% or lower. So I stole this because this is the honey that they keep extending off of the frame. I was debating on whether I wanted to keep it or not, but I decided to take it because it was just angering me that it was constantly off. It was also kind of easy to pull off. It was like fragile. And considering I'm feeding them so much sugar water, I figured, you know what, I might as well just take this anyways and just give them more sugar water that they can just build a good complete frame with. So I'm gonna try it for the first time. It's kind of satisfying. So a couple of things before I try it. I have an idea kind of what I think it might taste like. I feel like it might taste a little bit kind of like thinner honey, just because I've been just giving them sugar water a lot of the time because I wanted them to build the wax. And because of that, this could be honey that's made from sugar water. So whether they had the nectar from like a plant, you know, you would get that flavor in it. I think because it's sugar water, it might just be a little bit lighter of like a honey taste, but we'll have to try and see. That's definitely honey. So it actually does taste very like floral. That's actually really good. Do you want to try this? Wow, that's actually really good. I'm excited to actually be able to harvest more honey eventually, but that's crazy. This is like surreal to be like, I'm tasting honey that's from bees that I keep.